some inset circles, real nice. And when I came back, I looked up to see if those things get manufactured in the United States, and sure enough, they exist. And I copied 2 pictures and gave them to Phil. One of the pictures, guess what? Shows a median in a highway. And shows these bollards along the median in lieu of ugly steel guards.
With the sidewalk.
Yeah,
yeah, they did.
Actually, brick sack, very nice.
They did.
And so I gave it to Phil, and I just wanted to share with you. If you're interested, I'll try to find those pictures, or Phil can make copies.
I've got them.
And maybe we can convince somebody that in the entrance corridor to the great city of Charlottesville, that would look a lot nicer. And there may be some way to achieve that, if not as part of this project, at the end of the project or somewhere. But I think the city deserves a better entrance than what we're developing there right now. The other thing is, back a while ago, when we're talking about lighting fixtures along the sidewalks at 29 and Ryan, we were given a sketch of a lighting fixture that VDOT had selected because it already was in use in Crozet. And I got to see that picture in Crozet, and I also saw it in Belvedere. It's a pretty ugly thing. And we never were giving a choice of fixtures, say, okay, pick one of these 6, or pick one of these 10, or pick one of these 3. We never were given a choice. And it may be too late. The train may have left the station, but maybe we get lucky and we can revisit those.
They're up in Crozet and Belvedere?
Oh, yeah, you can see them near in Crozet, they're near the new public library.
Okay.
And in Belvedere, you probably know the neighborhood better than I do. These ugly black things, not very tall.
And
You live there.
they're probably not in the neighborhood. Are they the apartments or the?
Yeah, I got very confused.
We have debates about lighting in the neighborhoods. I'm pretty sure there's not in the neighborhood.
Well, I discovered there are really 2 neighborhoods once you get in there.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'd never been there.
I'll take a look at it. I've never noticed them.
But they're there too, and I think it would be nice if we could come up with something nicer if it isn't too late.
Okay. Okay.
I'll take a look today.
Take a look.
My opinion.
They're in the apartments.
Pardon?
Oh yeah,
In the apartment.
I'm
At
a resident,
in Belvedere?
a resident of the apartments, by the way.
You've seen them?
He drives slower than my grandma.
Looks like some sort of a hat.
Yeah.
It's black.
Yeah.
It's like for morning. Yes. Okay. I hope we can do better. By the way, if you go to Bax Road Shopping Center and look at some lighting fixtures next to Panera Bread, where there's a fountain, a trellis, and whatever, there are some lighting fixtures there along the design that I had in mind. Doesn't mean that's the only design that's good, but it's an example of a nice contemporary.
How did those
design.
decisions get made?
I can speak to the Crozet
Well, I mean, on the
Let's let Mark go first. It may help me with my answer.
Those light designs, there were a number of fixtures that were reviewed by the Architectural Review Board. The one you see is the choice of the county's Architectural Review Board.
Oh, well.
But VDOT's exempt from the ARB review.
Does the county have a policy that all lights have to be the same across the county?
No.
But VDOT did specify that fixture, so Lane Corman didn't have a choice.
We were told
Have they already
because
been
it had been already
Yeah.
They already
selected
been
in Crozet.
Or contracted for?
I don't work at a contract for them.
Okay.
Well, we'll have
Sub
to,
out for a different time?
let me think real fast then here on this. That's what I would have thought.
So if you don't tell anybody, Henry, when Lane Corman gets the delivery, I have a truck. We can go out there on that truck. Yeah, just make sure you don't tell anyone.
I can tell you some stories around that I won't do here.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, no, thank you, thank you. I tried my.
Thank you.
Is that
Great.
All right.
Very helpful.
I had to find something that I could manage.
Yep.
So if there was an item that was late that's now done, it kind of, there's enough red up there to let you know
Yes.
that it was late, but it fades to
Even
green.
better than what I suggested.
Fades to green. I couldn't do what you suggested. I couldn't figure it out. So there was a button for this, so that worked well.
Thank you.
A couple things since last time. The retaining wall piles, that part is really done. Roadway widening's up about 95% complete now, looking toward the end of April. The gas line relocation, this is one we talked about before at Route 29. Widening is a little bit behind as they focus on other activities. You'll see, for example, that the jack and bore that was out here toward the end of the year has gotten started, which that's a good thing. The phase 1 grading, drainage, and paving is up about 75% complete, and starting work on the phase 2 grading. On Berkmar, and we mentioned this the last meeting, while there's some red up here based on the fixed schedule, there's a lot of activity. The right-of-way acquisition is almost wrapped up. This rough grading to the south of the river is about 3/4 of the way finished, but a whole lot of attention has been put up on the bridge. As far as this clearing north of the river is done ahead of schedule. A lot of work on the abutments, particularly the north abutment. Pier construction has started and bumped up from about 10% to 20%. As always, Dave will give us more detail in here. Hillsdale, the last meeting we did the advertisement. This meeting, we can report that the pre-bid conference was held 2 days ago. About round numbers, about a dozen different either contractors or suppliers showed up at the pre-bid conference. The pre-bid conference is not a requirement, so that doesn't mean that there might not even be others out there that will be interested in bidding. We're looking for a lot of sharp pencils there as contractors are putting their bids together. And if I remember my date, May the 16th, bids are due. So, by golly, that's a good story. And utility relocation is still progressing out there. On 29 to 50, starting to see some of this pavement widening. Should be finished over the next couple of weeks. The final pavement bumping up from nothing to 30%. All the attention being paid on the sound barriers there, which are the critical path. And Dave, I'm sure, will tell us today that we're still on track here to finish up pretty darn soon, May the 21st. I'll continue. I mean, in all seriousness, I think that does give a better representation.
Exactly what I meant. It just shows that it's not still outstanding.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Bill,
yes.
add one thing.
Yes.
The gas line relocation on 29 widening, we had a meeting yesterday afternoon, so we didn't update that. We're probably closer to 45% on that.
Okay, well, good.
We got a good update yesterday.
Better that than the other.
Yeah, and there's a
Yeah.
few others that have probably bumped up a little bit.
Yeah, good. That's good.
Monday.
Good. And then just remember, you haven't seen the budget for a while, but we had 3 meetings in March. We'll see the budget every other meeting, so we'll see it on the 28th. I think it looks good. Getting ready for a busy time. Any questions there? Okay. Project updates, Dave, and then get these out of the way. I'll cover that right away quickly, and then you and Jason can do agenda item 8.
Well, I guess for 29-250 interchange, we are on schedule for May 21st or earlier, so I don't know if that's all we need to talk about that project.
As long as we talk about it every day between now and then.
Right. So some of the work that went on this week, and it was one thing that was not on our last update. It was a little bit of a surprise for us, but something that had to happen. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. But Continuing the post installation for walls B1 and B2. I think they might have finished the last one up this week. I mean, they're pretty much all in down at the end of Barracks Road ramp. So the big focus, as Philip mentioned, is on those actual noise wall sections that they're installing. Resuming the installation for the overhead sound structures, the foundations. There was a big truss that came in this week on the side of the 250 bypass. That's what that's for. A lot of signs were up there yesterday, so they're really gearing up. They got those foundations wrapped up and start going ahead and putting those sign structures up in the near future. Again, continuing the panel installations for walls B1 and B2 on the north side of the 250 bypass. Base stone installation, we'll see in a picture here in a minute. What that really means is they graded out that widening area for the ramp as well as the additional lanes up on the 250 bypass. Got the stone in, got some asphalt in. It's looking much better now. Continuing backfilling the maintenance bench. That's the little roadway bench behind the walls that allows access for the city to maintain those walls. Installation of under drain along 250 westbound, so they obviously need drainage systems in there. Completing the pavement rehabilitation for the outside lane of 250 westbound. So this is what was not on the agenda last time, as planned work. We knew there was an issue of the right lane, the existing right lane of 250 bypass westbound. When they cut out alongside that right lane to do the widening, at some point in time in there, the trucks running over that caused the asphalt, which is sitting on top of what we call a CTA layer, or cement treated aggregate. Basically, it's concrete. It slid a little bit, caused a little crack in the asphalt. Well, in an abundance of caution, we had the geotechnical engineers come out and look at it, and they said, we recommend fixing this right, fixing it now so that we don't have problems in the future. So they came in, shut that right lane down for a couple of days, dug it all out and repaved it. So I think today...
All of that was happening during our last meeting.
Yeah, discussion was happening during the last
Yeah.
meeting. Well, we didn't have the, here's exactly what we're going to
Right.
do and when we're going to do it.
Right.
And you probably saw there was a traffic alert that went out ahead of that. They moved it back a little bit because of some rain, but that's all cleared up now. So that is done. Beginning the conduit installation along 250, that's just conduits that run from one side of the project to the other for utilities. Beginning post-installation along Sound Wall C, so they've got the equipment over there on the south side of 250 bypass at the Barracks Road ramp now, so they're going to start drilling those holes. Much smaller sound walls than what we have on the north side. Luke? Okay, pictures. This was taken earlier this week, so obviously we have, well, this is during that operation. I think this was Monday afternoon, so we've got the right lane closed there. They're fixing that pavement there, but all of this new asphalt pavement in here, they've got it up to the intermediate layer, so they're almost done paving all that new area. So that's a lot of good progress that happens very quickly. Usually we see these projects, it looks like nothing's really getting done, and then right there at the end, it all comes together. Next slide, please.
Dave, why do you all wait to put the final pieces of the sound wall in place?
There's no reason, I'm not quite sure why they've waited on those. It's probably that they just haven't gotten those from Smith Midland as the manufacturer yet. There was no other reason to wait to put those in, just they install them as they come in.
Okay.
So what we're seeing here, in addition to all the new asphalt, is this piece of concrete down through here with the pieces of rebar sticking up. And that's where that barrier wall is going to go. We have to protect that noise wall because if it gets hit by a truck or a car, extremely costly, extremely difficult to replace these sections of noise walls. So that F-shaped barrier wall, kind of like we have on the Rio GSI project, will protect that noise wall. And I believe this is scheduled to be backfilled in between the two, so there's not, an open void there.
They just go through again for anybody new that might be watching the difference in the porous versus non-porous and how that's going to look at the end.
Yeah. Okay, so you see this here. This is the non-porous section on the bottom. It looks a little lighter than on the top. The porous section is required to trap the noise, so we don't just have it bouncing off one wall and going the other direction. We have that happening on both sides of the roads, and we just get a kind of a weird acoustic effect. So it's a dampening system for the noise from the vehicles. And generally, that line is established by the location of the homes behind it. So there's a sound line. We would prefer to have as much non-porous as we could. It's just more durable, it lasts longer, because there's a fibrous material that's put into that final product there that wears faster than a true concrete. But all of this will be stained. Anything visible from the ground surface up will be stained the same color patterns as what we're doing on all three of the projects that have this treatment. So that's why right now you'll see a little bit different shade, and even between pours, you'll see that little different shade. But what they do is they come through and paint it all, spray it all one single color, and then come back and stain the individual stones. So it'll be a consistent look throughout. The porous might look slightly different, but it's really going to be not going to be noticeable driving down the highway. The back side of the walls, which has the same treatment that faces the homes, there's no porous material on that, so that'll all be consistent for the entire noise wall.
Okay. With the barrier wall, is that a precast they bring in and just drop in place?
I think they actually, that's a good question. I haven't asked if they're going to use precast, but by the fact that these are dialed in, they might do a slip form wall.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I think they're going to do a slip form wall, so it won't be cast in, I mean, it won't be just sections they bring in and set. They'll actually pour that right then and there. So they're getting ready for that. They're very close to that.
On that picture, Dave, the one you just passed, you mentioned there's going to be backfill behind the crash barrier and the wall.
I believe that's what they're planning on doing is.
What will they backfill it with? And will there be some plantings or?
No, usually that's going to be like a stone, a small stone, like sometimes like a pea gravel material. And the reason you don't want to put soil back there, a couple different reasons. One, when you get that soil interface on the wall, it degrades the wall. The other is, I don't know that we really want anybody going out there trying to maintain that with the high speed of traffic.
Okay. So you have pea gravel and then have to spray it once every so often. So the weeds.
Well, there's no soil. All of this backfill here is all stone.
Yeah, weeds growing.
Yeah, I was going to say, they had to stop many of the weeds in the area, so.
I have to double check that though. I'm not 100% sure that
Yeah,
they're
weeds growing
backfill.
kind of-
I'll check the plans on that.
Okay.
So how wide is that between the little wall and what's going to come in front of this?
It's probably about 2.5 feet.
I'm just wondering if people are going to try to walk it.
No, yeah, I don't think they'll be able to. That's part of the reason why you're wanting to put something in there.
It
Yeah.
doesn't look safe, and I'm just wondering if it's
No.
flat, it might look walkable, it might be.
I don't think it'll look walkable when they finish.
No.
No, shouldn't.
If they're walking it, it'd almost be equivalent to walking out here on the shoulder, which
Yeah.
we see people doing.
Yeah.
It's rather crazy, but. Any other questions? Okay, so the lane closures this week, 250 westbound right lane closure and eastbound left lane closures. That was for continuing the overhead sign structure foundations, getting all that ready. Route 29 southbound left shoulder closure, again for the foundations in the median for the overhead sign structures. Route 29 southbound right closed from hydraulic to 250 bypass, including the ramp. With a detour along Barracks Road, that was a nighttime closure that occurred just a couple of times. And then the daytime closure of that right turn lane on 250 bypass to fix that pavement failure, which is done as of today. Over the next 2 weeks, continuing the post installation for Sound Wall C, completing the milling, paving, and striping on Route 29. Our expectation is that when they finish those items, effectively they can open those lanes back up to traffic. We've been talking about getting those 29 lanes opened up a little earlier than May 21st. There's no reason to keep them closed. Beginning grading for barrier wall along 250 westbound. That's the western section. So you saw some of that area there that was finished on the eastern half, but then on the western half, finishing that up. Resuming the installation of the detectable surface. These are the ADA compliant detectable surfaces. If you drove through there, you might have seen them cutting sections out of the asphalt and putting those little domes in. And completing
That's on the sidewalk or on the actual pavement?
on the sidewalk.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so they have the
Yeah,
ADA compliant ramps. So. And completing the curb installation along the Barracks Road exit ramp. That's pretty close to complete. They've got a little bit more work to do there, and then they can go in and pave that ramp and get it open to traffic. So lane closures over the next couple of weeks. Again, we expect the 29 southbound right lane closed at night from hydraulic to 250 bypass to do all that work they have to do in there, including the ramp with the detour. Probably not every night, just on nights where they have to do that work, that curb work on the ramp. It's much safer to do that in a confined area to go ahead and have everybody detour around the Barracks Road. That actually works very well in the evenings. Would not work well during the day, but it works well at night. And then alternating lane closures for the milling and paving operation. So they'll come down through there and do one lane, then jump over the next lane, and have their traffic control set up to get people around that safely. Any questions, other questions on 29-250?
So you think it's on schedule?
It is on schedule. Yes.
I'll ask him that 20 more times today.
I'll have the same answer. I promise. Yes, on schedule.
That's at least it's fresh.
Okay, moving on to road grade separated intersection. And before we go through all this, it looks like a lot of items here. But one thing I want to say is that it's actually getting harder to go out and take pictures of interesting things because the work is starting to ramp down. Because at night, before when we would have 8 or 10 different operations going on, now we're seeing 3 or 4 operations and getting a lot of work completed. And that's what we all wanted to see, is that we're well out ahead of May 23rd, where we're going to close the crossover. And if we were still doing 8 or 10 operations, leading right up to that, that'd be concerning. So we're seeing what we want to see. We're in place. Lane Corman's ready for May 23rd, so that's a very, very good sign. So work this week, getting close to wrapping up all the widening in all the quadrants, starting to move to curb and gutter and under drain installation, pouring sidewalks, tying together all the storm drains. A lot of that has already been put in place, probably maybe close to 90 or 95% of the storm drains. Stormwater Facility 4 was paved. It's all done. It's tied in. They've got a little work to do to mill it and pave it. It's got a little bump right there right now. It needs to be worked out, but that operation went very well. Stormwater Facility 6 starting up probably the end of this week.
Day 4 was on.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
4 is in the southwest quadrant there in front of Virginia National Bank. 6 is at the entrance to Albemarle Square. 4 is out on the road. 6 is not. 6 is off the roadway. So Stormwater Facility 6 will be starting up late this week, early next week. Abutment A and B formwork, steel tying and concrete pours continues. I think, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're about halfway done with the pours on the abutments. 5 out of 10?
Yeah, at the end of the week, we'll have 2 more pours in A, so we'll only have 3 pours left. So.
Yeah, so 7 out of 10, getting very, very close to finishing up those abutments. Pre-tying the retaining wall rebar, and I've got a picture about that. We've been talking about that for a little while. You'll actually be able to see how exciting that work is. Fire department connection installations continue. Those are crossing the road and running parallel to behind the retaining walls. Signal foundations for the permanent signals. So all that stuff's going in now, so it doesn't have to happen later, just like we did with the retaining walls. Do them early so that you don't get caught up in little things later in the project. And the tieback testing is getting pretty close to complete, so they do withdrawal strength tests on that to make sure they're functioning correctly, and all that's been going very well. So this is just a picture of a storm drain installation. I think this is the last major run before we get into the excavation and do the storm drains in that area. This is the retaining wall here in front of SunTrust.
Yeah.
So this is actually where the CenturyLink duct bank was hit, which is why this isn't already in the ground. They had to kind of work all that out, and then this just runs down toward the entrance to Albemarle Square. This is pre-tying the rebar for the retaining walls, but it's better to get all this tied in a yard, off-site, have it all done, ready. So this summer, bring it in, set it in place, put in your formwork for the walls. It becomes a much quicker operation. So you can see all the stuff they've got tied so far, setting off to the side, all labeled for where it goes, how it gets put in there. So it's a good time-saving operation there. Lane closures, same as we've talked about for several meetings now. Wire crossover closed at nighttime, restricting the through movements while they finish up the abutments. Triple lane closures north and southbound for various operations, storm drains, finishing up any sidewalks, curbs, those types of things, and make sure they have plenty of room to operate and have their equipment in there. But over the next 2 weeks, almost identical work. Finishing up the widening in the quadrants, the curb and gutter, under drain, backfilling the Fashion Square wall. I think the last segment of that was just poured last night. So that's going to be finished up, backfilled. The sheet pile will be pulled, and that'll be completed. Sidewalk preparations in the southeast and northeast quadrants, getting ready to pour those sidewalks. Stormwater Facility 6 at Albemarle Square, continuing the fire department connections for the underpass, forming abutment A. So B is pretty much done this week, jumping over to abutment A, pouring that, continuing pre-tying the steel, prefabricating the wall forms. So they have these forms that go up to pour the concrete, and the form liners go in there to give us that nice rock pattern. And continuing the signal pole foundations and conduit proofing. They've drilled, I think, all of the conduit now underneath the intersection to get communications to all the different signal poles. I just have to go make sure they're all clear and can pull cable through them. And the lane closures over the next 2 weeks are expected to be the exact same as we just talked about, with the rider crossover restricted to through movements and left turns, and triple lane closures north and south. Any questions at Rio? Still a complex work zone, but not quite as much work going on out there every night, so that's good stuff. Okay, moving on to 29 widening. This week, continuing the jack and bore for structure 7-5 as well, which is south of Ashwood Boulevard on the east side of the road is where they're jacking and boring from. And simultaneously, they brought in another crew to do structure 15-20, which is up near North Hollymead. Cut and fill in the median. It's been pretty regular at all of our meetings. Median drainage, wire wall installation. So what's going to happen here is they're preparing for the phase 2 traffic shift. In our last meeting, we talked about how the lanes get shifted over. To do the shift to the phase 2, there's a big grade separation. So in 2 locations, the building was called a wire wall. We talked about an MSE wall that's mechanically stabilized earth, where they have the tiebacks, so the down pressure holds the wall up. Wire wall is a very similar concept. It has tiebacks that go back into the fill, bring it up. I think the max height on that's about 8 or 10 feet, so that they can shift the traffic over and then start working where they were running traffic in phase 1. So that'll happen, I think, next week. You're going to start with the north wire wall and then jump to the south one after that. Gas main installation continues. Phase 1 is wrapping up. Phase 1 really constituted about almost 70% of the entire work for gas main relocation, which is why we got a little bump up in our percent complete. Signal boards at Hollymead and continuing the Dominion utility relocations. Basically, they're just adjusting poles on the west side of the road. So this is just a picture of some of the median grading that's occurring. The gas main, actually you see a piece of pipe right there. That's the next section of gas main that's going to go on the ground. This is their construction entrance on the southbound lane, so they crossed over that and continue to move up toward Ashwood Boulevard. complete all those tie-ins. We'll do another gas burn off like we did several months ago, but this time it'll be during the day, not at night, so it'll almost be unnoticeable. A controlled situation where they've coordinated with the fire department again.
What's this section on the right going to look like when all this is done?
All this here?
Yeah.
This will all be graded back out and seeded and vegetated.
Trees or just grass?
I'd have to go back and look at our planting plan.
We're facing southbound, right?
We are facing south. Yeah.
So that's the multi-use trail on that side.
No, the shared use path is on the
Yeah.
northbound side. Until you get up to Hollymead and then it goes across. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at the planting plan. I think it's low vegetation and grass primarily because we do have the power lines up there that we're kind of pushing back a little closer to the power lines with the widening. This kind of illustrates the condition right here where you have to build that wire wall. You can see it's a pretty big grade separation through here. And I think this is one of the areas that's planned for the wire wall. So in order to move this traffic over to this area, we've got to create a wall there. But it gives you an idea of some of the grading that's been occurring in there. I know that they're not the 29 widening is a more traditional project. We don't have the really exciting bridge pictures that we have on the others, but it is some good progress on earthwork. So the lane closures, periodic left lane closures northbound and southbound when they're needed, but I don't think they've really been closing those lanes very often at night because there's not much work going on out there at night, it's mostly during the day. Okay, over the next 2 weeks, putting in stream diversions for more jack and bore operations and also the receiving pits. So when you do a jack and bore, you start on one side and you go all the way under the road and you have to have a receiving pit on the other side, so they'll go ahead and open those up. Median fill, same as they've been doing, pushing dirt around with the bulldozers. Wire wall construction will continue, median drainage. Phase 1 gas main tie-in, so they're tying that into the existing line and then burning off the gas that's in the old line that they'll be abandoning. And continuing the jack and bore on structures 7-5 and 15-20 south of Ashwood and north of Hollymead. And the lane closures, same situation, periodically as needed, a left lane closure in there to bring some piece of equipment in or bring material in at night. Any questions on 29 widening?
Hey Dave, maybe going forward on 29 widening, since we have all those phases of MOT, let's kind of build that into our lane closure or the update, so that right now we're in this phase, which means here's where traffic is running. 2 weeks from now, we expect to shift to the next phase.
Sure,
or something.
sure.
I think that would be good.
In advance of these shifts, we're going to get a lot of notice out.
Yeah.
So people are aware that, at least 2 weeks, but hopefully, 3 or 4 weeks out.
Yeah, that'll be some routine time that, 2 weeks, the first day of the 2 weeks in advance, we get a notice out, whatever it, if it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks, is not as important as it being consistent.
Yeah. The good news is these are very, as we talked about at the last meeting, they're very simple shifts. It's just move over, so not very complex, but we still want people to be aware of it.
Yeah.
Because when you drive through it the first time,
Absolutely.
it'll be a little bit new, and then people will become very used to it. We can certainly add, what phase we're into this.
Okay.
Thank you. Workmar extended. So while we have a little slowdown on Rio coming up on the summer, Berkmar's really taken off lately. It's moving very, very quickly. This week they are installing stream crossings and diversions. So various points along the alignment, there's streams that they have to cross, and we have to do that in a specific way, comply with the permits, put pipes in, put stone in. That's what they're working on. Above A backfill and retaining wall panels. Backfill, I think, is pretty much brought all the way up, and the formwork's being installed for the first concrete pour on abutment A. So it's a very good scenario there, well ahead of schedule. forming abutment B, stem, and rebar. So as abutment B comes up to its finished grade, that's what that means. General erosion control. Bill mentioned earlier that the entire alignment's cleared now, so they're coming back behind it with all the erosion control, putting in the silt fence. We had actually a MS4, which is the erosion control and stormwater regulatory reviews that have to happen, scheduled for today. Had one last week on Rio and 29 Lighting. Those went very well. All indications I've gotten so far, Berkmar has gone very well also. Abutment A, steel and concrete pour, as I mentioned, that pour I think is scheduled for late this week, early next week. Yeah. Okay. Continuing the drill shafts for the pier foundations. The first drill shaft was completed and is being poured. Hopefully they finished up the pour already. It was done today. So they started on the second shaft. There's a total of 6. Rock drilling for future blasting, just something I want to bring to everybody's attention. We had a pre-blasting meeting this morning, so where the blaster came in and talked about his plan and all the things that we need to do and people that they need to continue coordinating with. It's not going to be blasting like you think of, where you see rocks go flying everywhere. Smaller controlled blasts. That's probably going to start toward the end of this month.
I remember when the airport was doing blasting, there was concern about houses nearby. And, are there houses nearby, and are they doing kind of pre-blast surveys or anything, or is it not that kind of blasting?
Well, they're starting their pre-blast survey next Tuesday, and they're going to look at all those things. They're already very familiar with the area. There are just a couple of residential properties that are along the alignment. The Mooney's property is one, and there's another at the back of another neighborhood. We don't expect a lot of blasting anywhere near those homes.
Are they getting checked or not?
Yes, I mean, they're doing seismic monitoring, the whole works. Okay. So if we start seeing anything that looks like it's not exactly what we expected, then we can come in and make changes. And that's where also the fire marshals get involved with that operation. And there's communication to the property owners beforehand. Not just that, but also the coals on the north end. That's one of the areas where we have the most rock. Coordinating with them, making sure they're aware of what's going on. They're using blast mats and fill to control any material that might try to fly up. And then also on the south side, near the Sam's Club, where the roundabout is, there's a lot of rock there. And also coordinating with Sam's Club, Walmart, RWSA, even though there's basically 0% chance of any issues with RWSA because these blasts are smaller. They're not on the order of some of the much larger blasts you might think of some of these projects. But that's coming up toward the end of this month, beginning of next month, so just wanted everybody to be aware that is coming over the next few weeks.
I think it would be a good idea for you to do what you did for the drilling. There was that notice that Chris sent out to, property owners, because somebody's going to see, hear, or feel something.
We talked about this morning.
Yeah, okay.
Getting some communication out, just like we did with the pile driving. Probably not on the same scale.
Right. Whatever's appropriate.
One of the unique things is that, and the blaster came in this morning, was very good. He had answers to every question, very experienced. And one of the things he mentioned was not trying to get too much of a word out, because then you wind up with people coming to see it. And it's very unimpressive.
It is unimpressive. When it's done correctly, it's very unimpressive.
Yes. Especially at the scale we're talking about. Right.
And the rock quarry that's active is in that area, so
yes.
It's not like it's,
which also gets blasted.
Yeah.
Their blasts are probably going to be quite a bit bigger than what we're talking about.
So it'd be good just to make sure there wasn't some confusion that whose blast it was. So wouldn't want you guys getting blamed for something the quarry did, or vice versa.
Well, they talked about also recording the shots, so that for everybody's protection and documentation, and being sure that if something was damaged, yes, it was or wasn't my fault. The blaster was also very, very clear that if something happens, if a windshield happens to get broken, they're responsible. They understand that. There's no finger pointing going on. So I walked out of that meeting with a good confidence level on that.
Will that data be on the website so people can find out when the blasting was?
Yeah, and one of the things that we have to be a little bit careful with is all the conditions have to be right to actually blast.
I mean, after. What you were saying that it'll be documented.
Oh, what
when it
dates?
happened.
We
Would that be on
certainly
there?
can.
That would be great. I
We
think.
certainly can.
Because then people don't have to call to find out. They can just look and say, was that a quarry one or was that one of yours?
Yeah, and all this stuff is scheduled for, we can, 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, nothing late at night, nothing really early in the morning. It should be very obvious. I mean, it won't be a loud explosion that people will hear from miles away, certainly nothing like that.
I think, Brad, were you on the board? I think you were when the airport blasting was going on.
No, I was campaigning at that time.
Okay, because we heard a lot about that from people living
Yeah.
even quite a distance away, and I think the more information people have, the more reassured they are that somebody's paying attention.
Yeah, I agree. I understand what the blaster said about, sometimes information may attract people, but what attracts more people is the absence of information.
Yes.
So I would.
Well, I think what we don't want to put out is, we're blasting Tuesday at 11 a.m. and
Here's
then all
a
of a
good
sudden
place
you
to
have all
watch
these
it.
people.
In the
Yeah.
spot,
Yeah.
I equated it to the Revolutionary War, where people used to show up to watch these battles.
That's right.
Picnics and.
And they didn't realize how, gory they
Yeah,
would be.
but-
I mean, certainly getting information out to the
Yeah.
the residents and businesses and
Okay.
the airport and all those is something
All right.
that we're planning on doing.
Fort Sumter.
Yes.
No, no equating it to Fort Sumter. I don't think we'll be quite anywhere near that area. Actually, I think the blaster mentioned this morning that his last project, their blasts were on the order of 56,000 pounds of explosive. This is 1,000 pounds. So it's very small compared to what he's used to doing, so very confident with that. Remove overhead power line in abutment B. There's in fact, that may have already occurred this week. I haven't been out to Burkmar. I know that the conduit was run, Dominion Virginia Power pulled the cable and was just taking down that existing power line there. Lane closures this week, flagging operation along Ryder Mills Road. That's been in place for 6 or 7 weeks now. Actually, as they've gotten settled in and started the drilling, they're not even really flagging a whole lot. There's not a lot of vehicles coming in and out. So this is the latest, greatest shot from my favorite location to take pictures from on the south side of the river. You can see the formwork here for the concrete pour, and if you look close enough, you can see the tops of the piles sticking up, and all that stone that's in there. It's all been placed and compacted. So that's very good news. Getting ready for that next pour. You can see down here the drill rig is actually in the back corner here. And that was it's Pier 2, Hole 1. And these are large holes. You'll see a picture of one in a minute. So they've got a lot of activity going on down in this area. It's all very well protected. It's all out of the traffic, out of the roadway. We did get some people driving by who are very interested in seeing it. It's an interesting operation. And then abutment B, sitting up here waiting for the next concrete pour. So that's what it looks like as of Monday, I think. Tuesday I took this picture.
What's the bald spot on the left part of the horizon?
This here?
Yeah.
That's
like Rockdale.
That's the quarry, yes. And then this is the power line right here that you can barely see. You can see the poles going across. It's coming down. It's going underground and back up. All right, this is behind the coals. This just shows you the amount of clearing that's been done. They've cleared the entire alignment. We can just about drive the entire alignment with a pickup truck. There's 1 or 2 more crossings that they have to get in place before you can actually drive the entire alignment. You can see the silt fence down here protecting Powell Creek. This looks good. They've cleared it. They've grubbed it. They've got it protected. They've got check dams for erosion control. They've got a berm here to control any water coming off this. And I think today They were going to seed this to stabilize that slope because it's going to be that way for a little while. But that looked very good. I was real happy to see that.
How do you keep people out of there when there's not actual work going on? I'm thinking like off-roader.
We've had that. There's some residents nearby that go out there and play in the late evenings or very early mornings or weekends. You do the best you can with signage. We don't want to put up chains and ropes because then somebody might hit it, but we try the best to keep them out of there. But it's going to happen. It has been happening.
It's the pesky 4x4s.
Yes. Luke? Okay.
Brad,
Not the best picture in the world.
How long does it take you?
This is looking down one of the drill shafts. So this is the first one they've done. There's some water in the bottom they had to pump out. That's what they were doing here. I believe this one was 26 feet deep. It's a 7-foot diameter hole. So it's a pretty big operation, and they socket it down into rock so it can't move around at all. And then what they did yesterday was drop the steel cage. There's a spiral rebar cage. I think one of the previous meetings had a picture of that. We talked about the rod busters with the real heavy gauge steel. They put that in there, they positioned it, put all the shims in place, and then what they did today was pour the concrete. So this one is, for all intents and purposes, everything beneath the top is done. And then we'll do some what we call cross-sonic logging, which is a test to make sure there's no voids in the concrete. The pour was actually done the way it was anticipated to be. Okay, over the next 2 weeks, stream crossing 5 and 6, continuing the erosion control, forming abutment B stem, pouring abutment A. This is the cross-sonic logging that I was testing about, going ahead and doing that on the first pier. Continuing the drilled shafts, rebar for abutment A and B, continuing tying the pier columns. So as we get the drill shaft foundations put in place, they start coming up out of the ground, tying that steel for those piers. Pre-blast survey that we talked about, and lane closures, flagging operation along Friar Mills Road. Just as we've done, concrete trucks coming in and out, making sure that's a safe condition. Okay, signal updates, no real change to this. I was hoping to have a spreadsheet for you today with all the projects and what was done. I haven't gotten it yet, but I promise I will have it for you by the next meeting so we can see the progress in all of those. But quite honestly, by the next meeting, that'll be wrapping up, so hopefully there'll be a bunch of check marks on that sheet. I don't anticipate that it won't be completed by May 1st. So we'll have high-speed communications and cameras to a lot more signals around there to help us with MOT during construction. Any questions on the signal upgrades?
But you still think they'll be done by early
May
first of May? Yeah.
If not sooner, yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Hillsdale extended. I don't know how, if you want to come up and do this, I can do this pretty short this week. I'll go ahead and cover it. Continuing the utility relocations for service and commercial buildings. They were out there this week doing some more what we call potholing to find the existing utilities. And Dominion Virginia Power has already started boring. They're moving very, very quickly, which is a very good sign. So they're working on parcel 11 right now. VDOT's prepared to assist with bid review if the city would like our assistance. We usually just kind of review that and make sure that we're okay and FHWA is okay with everything that occurred. Planning for construction oversight. I know that the city has their team in place to perform construction engineering and inspection. VDOT acts as a representative for FHWA. We do a much kind of higher level, 30,000 foot, once a month, kind of come by and make sure everything's going okay. As Philip mentioned earlier, a pretty big conference was held this week, and continuing the business relocations, 2 relocations right now.
2 businesses, it's considered as 6, but they're individual or booth rentals.
Right.
Yeah, you know what business they are, the ones that are relocating?
Cosmo Pro is one, and I forget the other one right beside it. That's right, Ebony Images. That's right.
Yes.
Good.
This is a picture of them doing the test holes. Very exciting, but I'm glad we have another picture of work on Hillsdale before we have a contract. So utilities are underway, they're on site and getting going. So over the next 2 weeks, continuing utility relocations, specifically right there at the shopping center, continuing planning to assist with the bid reviews if necessary, completing any more revisions that we might want to make to the team for construction oversight, although I don't anticipate any changes to that, and continuing the business relocations. Any other questions on Hillsdale? Fixed completion date still October 30th, 2017.
And on Hillsdale, the city reviews those, that update, usually the day of our meeting, because I want to be sure that we're updating you on their project. They agree with it. And also on Hillsdale, we are going to continue weekly calls with the construction team, just as we've been doing for a year and a half now on the other Route 29 projects. There'll be a small group, and I think we're going to talk right after the larger Monday call.
Not sure that's been settled, but that's.
Yeah, well, we're just going to continue to talk weekly.
Right.
5 minutes of conversation can replace 5 days of pain, so it's worth doing. It served us well.
At an earlier meeting, it was brought up what the ingress and egress at Whole Foods is going to be when this is done, and there was some concern about that. And I don't know if you're going to look at that, or is that just kind of already set?
The city is looking at that
Okay.
in terms of whether or not any
Make it a
adjustments
little more
might be.
flexible.
That's right.
Okay, I hope that that stays at the top of the list somewhere. Thanks.
Okay. You asked, and we said we would update you on right-of-way, on the bypass right-of-way. This is the latest as of this week. There are 93 parcels that were in VDOT's ownership. 15 of them have been sold. 22 are under contract. 30 are pending offers to former or adjacent property owners, and that's following the process for disposing of surplus property. 13 are pending resolution of condemnation issues, and I'll be the first to say I don't know what all those issues might be, but Lou, I presume these are cleaning up issues for properties that were
Yes.
condemned and now trying to, or taken by eminent domain.
Be cleared.
5 are for sale through public advertisement, which would tell me that the former adjacent property owner wasn't interested, and now those are being sold through public advertisement. Looks like one's waiting on some asbestos abatement. One of the properties was retained and has been used for the Leonard Sandridge project. 5 retained by VDOT for the projects we're working on, and 1 is in litigation. And if you're like me, the first thing I did was add those to see if it added to 93, and they do. So that is the list. And Lou has really been staying on top of this from a communications point of view, because there's a lot of people that have been interested in, hey, what's happening with this right-of-way. So I think, Lou, if you just continue to do that, and we could report that back to you monthly to see how it changes. Why don't we just plan on doing that? And I know, Morgan, you were interested in a little bit more of, well, where are these 22 properties and where are these 30? I don't know how many other people are. I don't have any idea because I'm not particularly interested. But
If it's possible, maybe not monthly, but at some point to have a map with like color codes of the different properties.
sure, key them in.
Of where
Yeah, we
their
could do that.
status is.
I don't think it'd be too difficult.
We can figure that out.
Yeah, we can figure that out.
If I can just add this kind of publicity, the fact that this is being talked about has been of assistance to VDOT in helping to generate interest.
Right.
And we have had some inquiries on some of these properties that I think they had not had before there was a story in the paper, and there's been some other
Yeah, 'cause
information going out publicly about it.
You may not recall, but I know this kind of got off to a slow start, and it has picked up in terms of interest in reacquiring or acquiring these properties.
The properties that are for sale through public advertisement are listed on VDOT's website under the business section. And they're also advertised in the Daily Progress. I think it's every other week, and they're up on Zillow as well. So
Yeah.
they are out there in the public.
But thanks for pulling that together and distilling it very nicely.
Kudos to the right-of-way folks.
Yeah, well, okay. We'll pass that along.
Could you help us out a little bit and tell us what the Leonard Sandwich project is, and also what the uses of those 5 properties that somehow relate to the 29 Solutions program?
I think is this project over?
Yes,
Yeah, that's what I
that was a
thought.
bypass property. That was a property that was purchased for the bypass inside the 250 bypass alignment.
Oh.
And back when UVA built Leonard Sandridge Road, they requested that VDOT allow them to go ahead and build using that property.
Okay,
that's
so
what
that one has been used
That's
Yeah.
long done.
Okay,
Yes,
I understand. And what about the other 5?
I think these 5 are at the northern end of the project?
There are three properties south of the river that we retain that are on the Brookmore alignment. There's one property on the southeast quadrant of the intersection of 29 and Ashwood Boulevard that's being used as a stormwater facility for the 29 widening project. And one of the properties is the property where we currently have our office and our laydown yard for Lane Corman on Woodburn Road. And that property will be disposed of similarly when we complete this group of projects.
Okay.
So of the 5, 4 will be used, 1 will eventually be returned
Yes.
as surplus property.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there a dollar amount of how much has been raised by the sign?
I'm sure there is.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Interesting to have a kind of running tally as we get the reports. Gone back into the
Yeah, we
coffers.
could get that. That's public information, certainly. Yes, we will get it.
If it's just one or
Yes,
two,
there is.
it's
No, we don't
different.
have it, but we'll get it.
Cumulative, it makes sense.
Sure. Okay. All right, really the last part of our agenda is about the RIO GSI, and I've asked Dave and Jason to take you through how this will be excavated. And I'm going to give you a handout. These are on the screen. They're on the screen, and if you pass them down. And for those watching, it's part of the presentation. It's part of the presentation that's available online. They're stuck in after page 36. And I wanted the panel to have them just so you could take a little closer look at them.
I'll just hand it to my husband and say this.
Yeah, and Dave and Jason will take you through it with some level of detail in terms of how this is going to be accomplished and the scale of it. I listened to Dave say a couple times that things are really slowing down out there for RIO. Well, take a deep breath, and they won't be so slow soon. So if you guys will take everybody through that, that would be terrific.
Absolutely, and these are on the slides. Okay. And I apologize for the grid line, it's a little bit hard to see, but what we'll really kind of focus on is these areas here that are on your sheets. It's a little bit easier to see on your 11 by 17 printouts. But Jason, you want to just kind of step us through kind of the overall philosophy and then we each stage?
So what you've got is the sequence of how we're going to go about it. Just stepping back and looking at a higher level, the actual the types of activities in each one of these, just so you can kind of get a feel for what you're going to see out there as far as types of crews and how we go about this sequence. We're going to be starting out with a milling crew. They're going to be coming in with two mills to take out all the asphalt pavement. So anything that's existing asphalt, the mill machines will remove that.
Call time out just for a minute. For anyone that's watching, and thank you for letting me know, I just found out that for whatever reason, these sheets are not online at the moment. Debbie's working to see if we can get these up, so if you're watching, I know it's hard to see what's on the screen. As soon as they're up and available online, I think we should be able to get, if nothing else, Deb, let's just post the file. We'll get it up. Apologize for that, and apologize for interrupting. You guys get back out there.
So the first activity is going to be the milling, getting the milling out there. There'll be two mills out there, and they're going to focus on this first step for the bridge. So it's basically the footprint of the bridge plus and minus 100 feet, plus or minus to get started.
In length or in width?
Along north and south, plus or minus. The full width is 70 feet. So we'll start with the milling operation. That'll lead to an excavation operation where when we take it down, we're anticipating the asphalt from what we've seen so far is about 3 foot deep out there. We're going to take it down another 7 feet. That'll give us room to set the bridge, the box beams. So excavation crew will come in, 2 excavators, 15 trucks apiece, and start taking out this material and hauling it up to Berkmore.
Just so I understand the depth, so it's about 10 feet of mill?
No, it's about 3 feet.
3 feet.
3 feet of asphalt right there at the intersection is what.
Plus 7 feet of dirt.
And then, yep,
Or whatever.
for this step, yep, to take it down to this step.
That's just the mill, that's not the actual complete excavation, right?
Yeah, this is just this step.
Okay,
So,
and about how long a period do y'all anticipate for that?
for this right here, just the mill of just that area is about 3 shifts, so a day and a half. And then I think we've got 2 days to take that earthwork out that you see there.
He's talking about shifts are generally 12 hours. Y'all can work 12-hour shifts here.
2 shifts a day. It'll be 10 and 12 hours.
Well, yeah, for fueling and all that
Yeah.
type of stuff.
Can you orient us to that picture? Like, where are we standing looking at it? What is it? What are we looking at?
So this is kind of like a profile view. This is the hill 29. So as you come up.
So I'm on Rio Road looking toward
Looking
the
west.
east?
Rio. If you were standing on the west side of Rio Road, kind of looking at 29 from left to
Yeah,
right.
so looking east.
Yeah, where you have that hill
Okay.
on 29. Is that
You're
right?
looking west. This is
Looking
downstation.
Looking west,
looking west.
okay.
Yep.
So downtown is that way?
Yes,
Okay.
west of the
Yeah,
page.
yeah. So downtown's this way. You're coming up the hill. This is kind of the middle of the intersection here, and then back down towards the river.
Okay,
And then,
thank you.
so the first 3 feet of this, as Jason was saying, is where they're going to mill off, with a big milling machine. And there's a couple different reasons for that, one of which is to use those millings in other areas to control dust. I know you talked about using it up on the north end of Berkmore, so we don't, you can put that mill down and mud as well. And then excavate down a little bit further. So basically what you're doing is you're opening up the abutment.
Creating bathtub.
Each horizontal line represents 6 inches, right?
I'm sorry?
Each horizontal line on that diagram represents 6 inches.
1 foot.
20 of them?
1 foot, yeah. No, 6 inches, because it's 5 feet here. So
Yep.
that's 5 feet.
Okay.
This is 2.5 feet, so 6 inches, you're correct.
All right, so you've got an excavation operation. After the, and we're kind of,
Step 2.
yeah, you can go to step 2, show them what,
What's up at the top there?
that's nothing to be concerned with.
Okay.
It was just on
Won't
there.
worry my pretty
No,
head.
that was just on that sheet. So one thing to keep in mind when we're doing step 1, there's obviously going to be multiple things going on here. During step 1 and excavating for the earthwork, the mill operation is still going to continue. So they're going to move to the south and then remove all the asphalt on the south. When they're done on the south, then they're going to go up to the north, remove all the asphalt up there. So you can kind of see the progression as far as when we move to step 2. This is the earthwork operation. So that crew that just got finished digging out the area for the bridge to start to do enough to set the bridge beams, they're going to come down here and do a 5-foot cut all along the south now that asphalt's removed. All right.
Why 5 feet instead of 3?
OSHA requirement, we can't have any more than a vertical. When we're digging that, it's going to be a sheer earth wall.
Well, and if that question leads into step 3. When they leave this side here and jump to the other side over here, do the same thing, they start bringing down the lagging in the retaining wall. So they stay ahead of that OSHA requirement for how high of a wall you can have there. And then, meanwhile, you'll be setting your bridge beams in here, right?
Yeah, so this whole time, if you want to skip to step 3, you'll see now the excavation crew is on the north with all the trucks, and on step 2, we've got the carpenter crews are starting to build the lagging. All this time, when you're going north and south, you've got a crane that's sitting in this flat area in the middle that's going to be setting the box beams. So that crane will be sitting in there at night. We'll have a lane closure on southbound, and we'll have the trucks coming down with the box beams, and he'll be setting 9 box beams a night. During the daytime, they'll be post-tensioning, which is they've got holes through those box beams, and they put a strand of wire through there, tension it, and that sucks them all together and keeps them tight. And that's one group. They'll do that a day for 5 days.
So one more interruption. For those that are watching, if you'll refresh your Route29solutions.org, go to the same spot under today's meeting, click presentation. The first thing you'll see is the agenda again, but click the presentation tab and go past slide 36, and you'll start seeing the sheets that are on the screen now. Thanks. Sorry, guys.
And just to go back to something that we talked about, Karen, you had a question?
Just a quick, just because this is very technical looking with all the lines and everything, to get a visual of it. The north and south kind of terminus, currently the median is, blocked on either end, north and south. Is that kind of the termination point where this work will be occurring, or is it going to be extending beyond what that is?
No, it won't. It doesn't even go that far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But one of the things I wanted to kind of go back to about something that we talked about a couple meetings ago, and I think it shocked a few people. Mark, I know you had an interesting look on your face as far as when the beams would be set.
Fast.
So
I was impressed.
Yeah, fascination, was that what it was? Impression. Yeah. So when they bring down this step 1 excavation, and we talked about a day and a half for milling, a couple days for excavation.
6,000 yards, so yeah, two days.
2 days. So 3.5 days in, they can bring the crane in and have the beam start showing up. So when we were talking about before, shutting down on May 23rd, and a few days later, setting bridge beams, that's how they're going to do that, with this excavation in the middle first.
The reason we can do that is because what you don't see out there now is underneath those steel plates is the above.
Yeah.
It's ready.
But it did impress me because 6,000 yards is 600 dump truck loads. That's
15
But
trucks.
that's not-
That's
That's not,
a lot of
okay,
trucks.
all right. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, when you run them 24 hours a day, it really
That's right.
So there's going to be a picnic ground and some bleachers, so.
If we can find a place for a picnic
came
ground
out.
and bleachers and a safe place, we'd love to do that.
All right.
But
Maybe in the Fashion Square Mall parking lot.
maybe a food truck, I don't know.
Food trucks, yeah, absolutely.
Ideas here. So that takes us through step 3. Everybody get up to this point? So middle, south, north. Step 4, go ahead, Luke.
Yep. Now, so in step 2, they finish the lagging on the south. The lagging crews now go to the north, and the excavation takes another 5-foot cut on the south. You kind of see what we're doing, going back and forth, back and forth. It's going to be a juggling act of timing. We've done our homework to where we've got the right number of people for the excavation that matches the correct people to do the lagging, and they just roll back and forth.
So step,
Have you guys thought about what route they'll use for the dump trucks on their way up to Berkmar, I guess?
29 to Townsend. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get through this, because I know everybody's interested in how that's all going to work. But there's a real key reason for why they've done what they've done. You really don't want to have excavators moving around, loading dump trucks backing in, and crews bringing down the lagging for the retaining walls. It creates a safety situation. So it's not just production oriented, but it's safety oriented as well. Because those people who say in step 5, when they're excavating and loading and hauling out over here, all those people bringing down the lagging are over here.
That lagging, yeah, we're looking at having 6 crews, 6 5-man crews. That's 30 guys in a 70-foot wide area. And you're asking them to send these dump trucks and, excavate, keep them separated.
So Dave, at this point, you've excavated for the bridge, and you're down 10 feet on both sides. What day are we at? Or what week are we at?
I think we're, well, put it this way, when we get down to the bottom, we're 7 days in, so somewhere between 0 and 7.
How does
That's
weather affect
the point I wanted you to make.
weather?
Yeah, so 5 inches of rainfall on day 3, what happens?
Yeah, well, we've got pumps ready, and we've also got all those millings. So that was another benefit of having all that stuff is it's there. We only need we're estimating we only need about half of those for our haul road to keep things clean up at the Berkmar laydown areas. So the other half we can bring up here in a pinch and keep the operations going.
And we've been assured there's not going to be any rain this summer.
There's not.
But
That's another weekly call.
That's another thought that went into that is if it's raining, if it's a little bit muddy, not absolute downpours, they can continue to haul out without making a mess on the road because they put the millings down, roll it,
Driving on
pack it a
asphalt.
little bit. Basically, you're driving on an asphalt surface. So, Luke, we go to the next step. So again, step 6. And you notice these areas, the little trapezoidal areas, they start getting a little smaller, a little faster on step 7. So again, back to the north side, go to 8. Little wedge there, 9. Little wedge on the north side, 10. So excavation under the bridges.
Yeah, so you'll see that there's a reason. There's a middle section that we've left out that we're not able to dig. Engineers have put a limit on our limits of excavation, created those limits until we have the bridge acting as a solid structure. In that you need to have the beam set, the back walls poured, and the back walls backfilled. So it's a solid structure from east to west, west to east. Once you've accomplished that, it's a solid structure, you can take out the full depressed area down below. So it's going to work out right about, at least on paper, right about the same time we get done going through all these steps where up top they've got the back walls poured and backfilled, and we can start our excavation underneath the bridge.
This is what he's talking about here, just to give you.
Dave, why don't you move that out and stand it up a little bit so everybody.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this.
Or make Jason hold it up for you.
Just like it's on the floor.
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Uh-huh.
So these are the retaining walls that, we've been installing all those piles and bringing down the lagging, and this is the area of the bridge. So what the engineers have said, we have this earth pressure on either side. The earth is pushing in on these walls. Well, until you put the beams in up top,
Oh, if you dig
you
more dirt.
can't, you don't want to dig this whole thing out and then have such a force of this moving. So leave this in place, that's what he's talking about here. But when you get your bridge beams in here, it resists this force. So now you can take all this out. That makes sense to everyone?
Good drawing.
Thank you.
What it's going to look like.
That's my best one yet.
So at this point, when we start getting into step 10, is where we've got that all the box beams are set. They're still working on the top. All you're going to see is just the box beams. They haven't done anything with the deck yet. And we'll start excavating underneath the bridge and taking that section.
And this is day, say?
This is day, yep, this is day 7. This is,
Okay.
yep, early June.
And then,
Big.
and then that's when they start with, step 11 underneath.
So this is a little trick, and this is one of the main reasons you don't typically do this, is taking that first lift out. You got very little headroom. So with all of our equipment, it's very tedious, very time consuming. You still have a lot of material, this wedge down here to take out, and you just put a roof on yourself. So a lot of times that's why they're not built this way. But we'll get some smaller equipment. We'll get in there and do that, put a couple crews in there and take that out lift by lift.
So that's 10 feet deep, is that?
It started 10 feet. It's got to go another 10.
But I mean, when they come in there, that's how much between the roof and the floor? They've got 10 feet.
Yeah.
They have about 6 feet.
Right.
What you take out for the beams.
They actually, you don't see on this profile is this cross section here where the designers are allowing us to go 15 feet away from the walls, and they go down on a 2-to-1, so we can gain some more space.
So this is that 15 feet. So this is the 6 feet, and this is going to be something deeper than 6 feet. So you can get your equipment in this area and dig this out on either side.
Okay.
So it's again 5 feet at a time. Again, this is an area where we've talked about when we're in this timing. What's also going on when we're doing this excavation under the bridge, since we've got the north end of the bridge and south of the bridge excavated, those lagging crews that we're putting in the lagging are now going to be carpenter crews that are building the concrete wall, the face. So we're going to have a crew on each corner working on these. And in this area, we are going to have trucks. We're going to have a little cattle chute going in the middle for the trucks to come in, get this material, and leave while you still have the carpenter crews working. It's a minimal amount of time during this shutdown, but it's unavoidable here. So
you want to get the next one? Step 12 and step 13 here under the bridge, and pretty much, is that the last one there? Yep. Yeah, the last step is just filling that out and then putting in all the drainage and all the other things that need to occur, starting the retaining wall. So this is day.
This is June 15th.
June 15th. It's all excavated out.
So we started May 23rd, June 15th.
Yep.
Your
It's
lagging is in
excavated.
place. It's excavated.
You're actually starting on June 6th. You've started making some pours on the walls themselves, not underneath the bridge, but on the corners themselves.
Which is why we've looked at the pre-tied steel sections. So instead of having all those crews in there tying all that steel, it's an additional safety precaution. Have them already tied, bring them in, set them in place for the walls. Okay. Next slide. This is what we were talking about this morning. I think y'all have probably spent a lot of time talking about where the truck's going to go, how they're going to get there. The north side, I think, it's a little tight, but it's when you come right out of the excavation, you're in a lane, you're up to speed, you're able to merge into traffic. That's not as problematic. You're heading in the direction you need to go to where you're going to dump.
Orient everybody, and for the sake of people that might be watching where you are.
So this here is Burkmar Drive. This is the crossover here.
The temporary crossing.
Temporary crossover.
So the intersection is down there?
Which intersection? This is 29th Place.
Okay.
Burkmar's right
The
here.
GSI is off to the right of the page.
Yeah, off to the right. So what we're seeing is this is kind of the end of the excavation here. So facing south toward the city. And I don't know how much you want me to step them through this or correct me if I'm wrong or anything, but so trucks would come in here, back in, so they pull into the work zone, back in, get loaded, come out. And what we're talking about doing is staging some trucks here. So these are loaded trucks, these 4 little images here. That lane is closed because we've got 2 lanes beyond that. Our requirement is maintaining 2 lanes southbound, 3 lanes northbound.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important to say 2 or 3 times. You know, he mentioned a lane that was closed, but there are 3 lanes 3 lanes moving northbound, 2 lanes moving
Yes.
southbound while all this is happening.
So if you can see where my pointer's at now, that's an open lane going southbound. The next one is an open lane going southbound, and this is a closed lane. So you have these trucks that just came out of here, they're loaded up, and we have this signalized intersection right here.
Oh,
And what we're wanting to do, and I think the best plan as far as efficiency and safety is add another phase to this Burkmar signal, an all red phase. So it operates like it does today, but then when these trucks are ready to come out, we can do it a couple different ways. We can have actually an actuator that will turn everything red. These trucks make a U-turn, go to the northbound lanes, and then the signal goes back to normal operations. So that the trucks are not trying to merge into flowing traffic, much safer activity. And then they continue up north to Town Center, make a left, go to Burkmar, drop down the grade a little bit, and dump where they're supposed to.
so they'll all be 4 together when they're doing it?
Well, they can be, yes. I mean, you can have convoys.
They've waited for the light.
Yeah, and this is something that, you know, quite honestly, probably after the first couple of days, we'll know if we need to make any adjustments to it. We're talking about an all-red phase at Burkmar of 60 to 90 seconds, maybe somewhere in that order, to let these trucks clear out of there. It's gonna remove a lot of factors. Truck drivers are truck drivers. They're good at what they do. Sometimes they get a little overconfident. We want to eliminate, you know, that possibility. So we think this is a good solution where you don't have a truck driver coming out and saying, yeah, I think I can make it. We know we've got a problem with people speeding through this area. So we just want to remove that whole variable. So as you can see, this whole plan here was built around efficiency and safety.
But so Dave, that situation which I think is the correct thing to do, the minimal amount of somebody waiting on a 90-second phase versus trying to merge those trucks into traffic is well worth it. But how long would that situation, tell them how long that situation would be in place, based on what you just
June 15th is over.
Yeah, I mean, you're roughly talking just the beginning of it.
May 23rd to June 15th.
Yeah.
Because once
3
once they're done excavating all that earth out of there, you don't have those trucks coming in and out and in and out and in and out all day of the work center. They've gone on and done something else.
So do the people going this way have to have a red light?
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask the same question.
They don't have to, no.
So it might make sense to just keep them moving through and just have the light this way.
You could.
What about emergency? If there was any emergency vehicles, you know, the light usually will flash to let them through intersection.
That intersection will retain emergency preemption that has it now. So if something were to happen and a fire truck were coming down there, well, the first thing is if they're going to be, you know, we're going to hear them coming down the hill and the trucks are just going to
It
stop.
might be loud with all for the truck drivers and everything, and the equipment.
We're going to have, right there where you see the red line and the green line crossing, we identified it, that there's going to be a merge area. We're going to have a spotter. Yep, right there. So he's going to be in control of those trucks. So he sees that
Radios,
coming down.
tell them when to go, tell them when to stop.
It's going to be his position to step in and say, stop here, I see there's a fire engine, there's sirens.
I like the idea of the all red cycle not being built in, so that it activates every single light cycle, rather than something that the truck drivers can.
When you get enough trucks there, then you set it.
Yeah, and it would be the spotter, not the truck driver. So the spotter gets 3 or 4 trucks there, because the truck driver's just going to hit it every time as soon as he gets there.
I'm ready.
He's not going to wait, but the spotter will be able to activate that, or even somebody a little higher in the food chain than the spotter, somebody that really understands that situation. But emergency preemption would still override all of
Well,
that.
especially if the southbound can just stay out of it, because there's no reason, because they're not doing U-turn there, right? They're just, their only choice is to go straight.
There is no U-turn for
Yeah.
southbound traffic. Yeah, I mean, that's something that we've talked about. Well, I guess what we need to do is go back and talk to the traffic engineers and say, what makes sense here? And if that's a viable option, I see no reason not to let the southbound traffic just keep going.
Just talk that through. That does seemingly make sense.
Yeah.
But let's
Sure.
bounce that off of the skeptic and see what they say, just to make sure we thought around all
It'll be nice
360 degrees.
if it works for people who are dealing with this, the kind of frustration of construction, because they actually save a little time then not having to have a light.
Well, and the other thing is the whole concept of keep it simple,
Yeah.
less chance of failure, more chance of success.
And it's
But
3 weeks, right?
I like this plan. I really do. I think it's viable. I think it works. I know that.
And the other option is just to have them come out into traffic.
Come out of the traffic.
When you say this is the
Come out
plan you
into
agree with, the only other option is to not do this and to just have
The
them.
light turns
Well,
green, they come out and try to
merge when they
merge.
can.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
there's
follow you.
that. We also talked about, what about Burkmar? But you're crossing very quickly 2 active lanes of traffic. That's not a safe situation.
Unless you did a red
It
light.
could ease tensions for motorists too, to kind of know, okay,
Yeah.
it's actually waiting for a train. You know it's going to pass eventually and you'll get through. Instead of like, where am I going to get through here? Maybe it will be less stressful for people driving through there too.
You're absolutely right. I'll
Yeah.
tell you a story about last week. We were driving back from Hampton. Joel and I were driving back from a conference down there, and they're doing work in the median of 64. And there was a dump truck that came over. There's a barrier wall there. And the dump truck came over to ride alongside the barrier wall inside the work zone. And even though there was a barrier wall between that dump truck and the traffic, they slowed down to a crawl. It's the mental aspect, so not having that merged situation and actually stopping people for 45, 60, 90 seconds may overall be a better situation for traffic flow anyway. And not have people panic when they see a dump truck.
Then somebody could rear end them if they're not,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Other questions, comments?
Shouldn't you wrap up the rest of the project in like 3 days after that?
It just gets faster.
Just
It
about
gets
done.
faster. Yeah, there's a lot of concrete to be poured on those walls. You get that done, and
And paint.
you got the asphalt, you got barrier. There's a lot of after we're done doing the.
I feel like the trucks will no longer be as big of an issue at that point.
So 23, on that plan, 23 days, you've done your excavation, placed the bridge, placed the bridge segments, and placed the lagoon. So
And
that's
started on the concrete wall.
And start on the concrete wall, but in terms of things you've done, you've placed the bridge, you've done your excavation, you placed the structure, and completed your lagoon. There are other things that have started now, but the intersection, the grade separated intersection
It's there.
has been created, right?
Rough cut.
Yeah, rough cut.
Then there's all the polishing. But one of the things that I like about this plan, and I'll go ahead and brag on Lane for him a little bit. Last week, we were at the Virginia Transportation Construction Alliance Spring Conference. That's a organization that represents the industry A lot of people there, I don't know, probably 500, 600 people there.
900.
900, thank you. And they gave out awards for safety. And in the category of 250,000 to 500,000 man hours, Lane Construction won the safety award, and Corman Construction was runner-up. So, and I think this is kind of reflective of that. You know, and there's a lot of other things that have been put in place recently with spotters and using new halo devices and helping the truck drivers who generally don't work for Lane. They're generally independent local truck drivers, very easily be able to locate, identify spotters so they know who to pay attention to. So you know, we're very happy with the safety results we're seeing, and I think this plan also reflects that.
Along this, where are you at with the bridge deck? When is the bridge deck poured?
The entire bridge deck, or when does it start?
The entire bridge deck, when's the bridge deck?
In this schedule, I think it's somewhere around 4th of July.
4th of July. Okay, makes sense.
We won't give away any secrets, but I'm betting it doesn't take 103 days. And I'm betting low, not 104 days.
He's been real low.
Yeah, I know. You know, when you believe you can do it, you start to see how you can. If you wait to see it without believing it, you don't get there. But.
Good.
Thank you. That was good.
Thank you, guys. You know, that last comment about safety, just a word there. This is, Virginia started something several years ago called Work Zone Awareness Week. Work zones are dangerous places for construction workers, for VDOT workers, and it really took off nationwide. So this week in April, nationally, is Work Zone Awareness Week. I know you had your vigil last night. I read where, I think, 7 workers were lost last year?
No, 7 drivers in work zones, no workers.
7 drivers in work
Fatalities
zones.
for drivers in work zones.
7, that's a big number. I mean, so it's Work Zone Awareness Week. Just remember that when you see those cones and flags out there or anything working, to be as careful as you can be, not only for the benefit of the workers. We lost 2 workers when I was at VDOT, and James Richard Cameron, Paul Thurber. I remember those names every day. It's tough. So it is Work Zone Awareness Week. VDOT did a good thing. It's now national. That's a good thing, and appreciate you keeping that in mind. Any new business or wrap up, Brad? Karen?
They're going to be, I know y'all kind of maybe thinking about a groundbreaking ceremony when it starts.
My advice.
A ground excavation, whatever it would be.
My advice has been have no ceremonies when it starts and a big one when it's over.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't believe we'll see anybody come out when it starts, but
Oh, we'll be there.
when it's, other than us. But,
Shovel?
Refreshments at midnight.
yeah.
Yeah, golden shovels.
I have a shovel and some gold paint. Can make do.
Henry? Kristen? We good? All right. Thank you, and thanks for watching. Sorry about the mix-up on the presentation. Appreciate your patience. We'll see you April the 28th. Take care.